The giant meeting hall on planet Zarian was buzzing with noise. 300 alien species sat in their special chairs designed for their different bodies. The reptilian empire delegates hissed at each other while the crystalline beings made soft, chiming sounds. The insectoid hive representatives clicked their mandibles in patiently counsel. Leader Vexstar from the reptilian empire stood up slowly. His yellow eyes scanned the room with annoyance. He had called this emergency meeting for one simple reason: Earth had ignored the galaxy for 300 years. The blue planet in the outer rim had received thousands of messages. Every major galactic event had been broadcast to them, treaties of peace, invitations to join the council, warnings about dangerous space pirates. Nothing, not a single response from the humans. Most council members thought Earth was still primitive. Maybe they were still living in caves or hitting each other with stone clubs. The Aquatic Federation believed humans might have destroyed themselves with nuclear weapons. The Machine Collective calculated that Earth had a 90% chance of being uninhabited. But Vexstar was getting worried. He had studied the star charts carefully. Earth was in a perfect position to watch all galactic traffic. Every ship that passed through the outer rim could be seen from their solar system. What if the humans were not primitive? What if they were just quiet? Meanwhile, 30 light years away, Commander Kim Dae-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance. The massive warship hung in space like a metal mountain. Around it, 999 other human ships waited in perfect formation. Each vessel was 3 times bigger than the largest alien ship in the known galaxy. The bridge was dark except for the glow of computer screens. Dae-ho was a tall man with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had been training for this moment his entire life. Every human alive had been preparing for this day. Behind him, Lieutenant Park Min-jae monitored the alien communication channels. The young woman had spent years learning every alien language. Her job was to listen to everything the galaxy said about Earth. She smiled as she heard the council meeting on Zarianthi. Still think we are primitive, she reported to her commander. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed excitement. The reptilian empire is getting nervous about our silence. They are starting to ask questions. Good, Dae-ho replied. His fingers moved over the navigation controls. The time for hiding was almost over. Earth had learned everything they needed to know about their galactic neighbors. Now it was time to introduce themselves properly. The truth was simple, but terrifying. Humanity had received every single message from the galaxy. They had decoded every language, learned every secret, and discovered every weakness for 3 centuries. Earth had been the galaxy's best student. Now they were ready to graduate. The first message had arrived in the year 2157. A simple greeting from the Galactic Council, welcoming Earth to join the community of civilized worlds. The message contained basic information about galactic law, trade routes, and peaceful cooperation. President Sarah Chun had read the message in her office in New Geneva. She was a smart woman who understood that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room was the one who stayed quiet. She made a decision that would change human history forever. Do not respond, she told her advisors. Let them think we are primitive. Let them ignore us while we learn about them. Plan was brilliant in its simplicity. While the aliens held peaceful meetings and signed treaties, humans worked in secret. They built hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt. They developed weapons that could crack planets. They trained soldiers who knew only victory or death. Every human child learned about the galaxy in school, but they also learned to keep secrets. The insectoid hive had consumed 47 civilizations. The Machine Collective had turned organic beings into fuel. The reptilian empire kept other species as slaves. Earth's scientists studied alien technology from intercepted communications. They discovered that most galactic weapons were designed for show, not for killing. The aliens had grown soft from centuries of peace treaties. They had forgotten how to fight a real war. Captain Lee So-young commanded the stealth reconnaissance fleet. Her ships were invisible to alien sensors. They had been watching galactic military exercises for decades. The aliens moved their fleets like parade formations. Their weapons were outdated. Their tactics were predictable. We could defeat any 3 alien empires at the same time. She had reported to Earth Command. Their technology is advanced, but their military thinking is primitive. They fight like they are still playing games. The human fleet was different. Every ship was designed to kill and survive. The hull Armor could withstand direct hits from fusion bombs, the weapons could destroy entire fleets in minutes. The engines could outrun anything in known space, but the real advantage was human thinking. While aliens followed ancient traditions and peaceful customs, humans had spent 3 centuries preparing for total war. Every battle scenario had been studied, every weakness had been identified, every victory had been planned. Admiral Park Min-soo commanded the main battle fleet from her flagship UES Retribution. She was known throughout the human military for her cold intelligence and ruthless tactics. Her orders were simple. Make them fear us, make them respect us, make them listen. The 1,000-ship fleet had been building for 50 years hidden. Construction facilities throughout the solar system had worked day and night. Every piece of technology was tested in real combat conditions against robot enemies that fought like aliens. Now the fleet was ready. The ships moved through space like hunting wolves. Each captain knew their mission. Each crew member understood the stakes. Earth was about to announce itself to the galaxy, and the announcement would be written in fire and steel. On the planet below, Admiral Park reviewed the intelligence reports about the current galactic situation. The reptilian empire was expanding again. The insectoid hive had destroyed 2 more colonies. The machine collective was building new war robots. The peaceful species were hiding and hoping someone would save them. The galaxy needed new leadership, someone who understood that peace could only exist when good beings were strong enough to protect it. Someone who would not negotiate with slavers and planet killers. Someone who would bring justice to the stars. Lieutenant Commander Choi Jae-min prepared the communication array. His message would be broadcast to every world in the galaxy simultaneously. The aliens would learn that Earth had been listening to them for 3 centuries. They would discover that humanity had been preparing for this moment. The message was simple, but it would change everything. Earth was ready to join the galactic community, but they would join as equals, not as subjects. They would bring their own rules and their own justice. As the human fleet moved toward the galactic capital world, Daeho looked at the stars ahead of them. The aliens had no idea what was coming. They thought Earth was a primitive world that could be ignored. They were about to learn the most important lesson in galactic history: never ignore a quiet enemy. The 1,000 ships of Earth's fleet moved through hyperspace toward their destiny. The galaxy was about to meet humanity, and nothing would ever be the same again. The alarms on planet Zarian screamed across the capital city. 1,000 massive shapes had appeared in orbit around the Galactic Council world. The alien defense fleet looked like toys compared to the human warships that now surrounded them. Council Leader Vexstar stared at the viewing screen in horror. Each human ship was bigger than his entire battlecruiser. The weapons on those vessels could destroy his homeworld in minutes. The humans had not come to talk, they had come to make a statement. Inside the council chamber, panic filled the air. The crystalline beings were making high-pitched sounds of fear. The Aquatic Federation delegates were hiding under their water tanks. The machine collective was calculating their chances of survival, and the numbers were not good. We must contact our fleets immediately, shouted General Morduk from the insectoid hive. His compound eyes reflected the light from the human ships above. They cannot be allowed to threaten the council. But Admiral Park Min-soo was already speaking. Her voice came from every communication device in the city, calm and cold like winter ice. She spoke in perfect galactic standard, the language used for all official council business. This is Admiral Park Min-soo of the United Earth Space Navy. We have received your invitations to join the Galactic Council. Over the past 300 years, we have come to accept membership. The silence in the council chamber was complete. Every alien leader was trying to understand what they were hearing. Earth had been listening to them for 3 centuries. The humans had learned their languages, their customs, their weaknesses. We also bring terms for a new galactic peace treaty. Admiral Park continued. These terms are non-negotiable and will be implemented immediately. All slavery throughout the galaxy will end within 30 days. All aggressive expansion will cease. All attacks on civilian populations will be punished. Vexta found his voice finally. What gives you the right to make demands of the council? You are just one species among hundreds. We have laws and traditions that go back thousands of years. The Admiral's laugh was not pleasant. Our right comes from the fact that we have 1,000 warships in orbit around your capital world. Our right comes from the fact that we have studied your military capabilities for centuries. Our right comes from the fact that we are stronger than all of you combined, Lieutenant Lee. So Young monitored the alien communication channels from her position on the flagship. The panic was spreading across the galaxy as news of the human arrival reached every world. The reptilian empire was recalling their fleets from conquered territories. The insectoid hive was pulling back from their expansion zones. Captain Kim Tae-ho commanded the destroyer squadron that surrounded the alien defense fleet. His ships had their weapons powered up and ready to fire. The alien commanders were sending desperate messages to their home worlds begging for reinforcements, but the Human Intelligence Network had been working for decades. Agent Nam Ji-won had infiltrated the reptilian communication systems. She sent false orders that confused their fleet movements. The alien ships were flying in circles, trying to figure out where to go. The machine collective tried to analyze human technology, but their scanners could not penetrate the advanced hull armor. Lieutenant Commander Choi Jae-min had designed the stealth systems personally. Each human ship was invisible to alien sensors until it was too late. On the planet surface, riots were starting in the alien districts. The peaceful species were celebrating while the warrior races were preparing for war. The humans had done something that no one thought possible. They had united the galaxy through fear. Admiral Park opened a private channel to the council leaders. Your species have had 300 years to create a just and peaceful galaxy. Instead, you have allowed slavery, genocide, and conquest. We will not allow this to continue. Council leader Zephyr from the Ethereal Republic tried to negotiate. You do not understand our history, she said in her musical voice. The galaxy is complex. There are ancient grudges and territorial disputes that cannot be solved by force. The humans had studied galactic history better than any alien scholar. Captain Park Yoonji had written a complete analysis of every war, every treaty, every broken promise. The peaceful species had always been victims while the strong preyed on the weak. Your complexity is just an excuse for cowardice. Admiral Park replied, we have read your history. We know about the massacre of Centauri Prime. We know about the slave markets of Rigel 7. We know about the Machine Collective's organic fuel programs. The alien leaders realized that humanity knew all their secrets. Every hidden crime, every covered-up atrocity, every shameful deal had been recorded by human observers. The galaxy's dirty laundry was about to be aired in public. General Mordick made one last desperate attempt. You cannot police the entire galaxy. Even with your 1,000 ships, you cannot be everywhere at once. Many species will resist. Your new order. Commander Yang Soo-jin had been waiting for this moment. She activated the holographic display that showed the real size of the human fleet. The 1,000 ships in orbit were just the advance guard. 10,000 more ships were waiting in hyperspace. We brought 1,000 ships to this meeting. Admiral Park said calmly, we have 10,000 more waiting for our signal. Each ship is crewed by volunteers who have trained their entire lives for this moment. Each captain has studied your military tactics for decades. The aliens finally understood the scope of human preparation. This was not a sudden decision by a primitive species. This was the result of centuries of planning and preparation. Earth had been preparing for galactic war since the first alien message arrived. Lieutenant Park Min-jae had been monitoring the alien military communications. Their fleets were scattered across the galaxy defending conquered worlds and trade routes. It would take weeks to gather enough ships to challenge the human force. By then it would be too late. The humans had positioned themselves perfectly. The galactic capital was under their control. The communication networks were monitored by human agents. The galaxy's leaders were trapped in their own council chamber. Admiral Park's final message was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. We are not conquerors, we are liberators. We are not invaders, we are protectors. The strong will no longer prey on the weak. Justice will come to the stars. The age of human guardianship had begun. With a simple message and 1,000 warships, the galaxy would never be the same again. The aliens had ignored Earth for 3 centuries. Now they would learn to respect humanity's power as the human fleet settled into defensive positions around the capital world. The aliens realized they had made a terrible mistake. They had assumed that silence meant weakness. They had believed that isolation meant ignorance. Earth had been the galaxy's best student for 300 years. Now it was time for humanity to become the teacher. The lesson would be simple but effective. Peace through strength, justice, through action, freedom, through vigilance. The 1,000 ships of Earth hung in space like mechanical angels, promising protection to the innocent and punishment to the guilty. The galaxy's age of chaos was ending. The age of human order had begun. The human ultimatum was simple but revolutionary. All slavery in the galaxy would end within 30 days. All aggressive expansion would stop immediately. All attacks on civilian populations would bring swift human justice any species that refused. These terms would face the full might of Earth's fleet. Captain Choi Jae-min commanded the enforcement division of the human fleet. His ships carried weapons that could turn entire planets into glass. His crew had trained for years to fight the galaxy's most dangerous enemies. They were ready to prove that humanity's words had teeth. The first test came from the insectoid. Hive Queen Zarkala thought the humans were bluffing. She ordered her swarm fleets to attack the peaceful mining colony on Kepler. Prime. The colony had no defenses and 3 million innocent workers. The Queen expected an easy victory. She was wrong. Captain Choi's response was faster than light itself. His battle group appeared in the Kepler system. Within hours, the human ships moved like hunting predators surrounding the insectoid fleet. The aliens had never seen anything like human military precision. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. The insectoid swarm ships were destroyed one by one, their crude weapons unable to penetrate human armor plating. The few survivors fled back to their homeworld, carrying news of human military superiority. But Captain Choi was not finished. The insectoid hive had broken the new galactic law. They had attacked civilians, and now they would face the consequences. His fleet followed the survivors back to their homeworld. Queen Zarkala watched from her underground palace as human ships filled the sky above her capital city. She had ruled over billions of insects for 2 centuries. No one had ever challenged her authority. Captain Choi's message was broadcast to every insectoid on the planet. Your Queen has violated galactic law by attacking innocent civilians. You have 30 seconds to surrender or face the consequences. Queen's pride was stronger than her wisdom. She ordered her planetary defense systems to fire on the human ships. The ancient energy cannons had destroyed many alien fleets over the years. They barely scratched the paint on the human vessels. The human response was surgical and terrifying. Plasma bombs struck the Queen's palace, reducing it to melted metal and ash. The planetary defense grid was destroyed in minutes. The insectoid military command was eliminated. Lieutenant Commander Park Yoon-ji had studied insectoid psychology for years. She knew that the species only respected absolute power. The demonstration had to be overwhelming to be effective. The new queen was a young insectoid named Clicker who had always opposed the old ways of conquest. She immediately accepted the human terms. The hive would release all slaves and restrict themselves to 3-star systems. Meanwhile, Director Kim Yoo-na was running the most extensive intelligence operation in galactic history. Her agents had infiltrated every major government. Her listening posts monitored every communication channel. Her satellites watched every military movement. The Machine Collective tried to secretly build new war robots in hidden factories scattered across their territory. They thought their encrypted communications were secure. They were wrong. Agent Lee Min-ho had been undercover in the Collective for 5 years. He looked like a normal human, but his body contained cybernetic implants that let him interface with machine systems. The Collective had accepted him as a useful organic component. When the secret factory construction began, Agent Lee sent detailed reports to Earth Command. The humans knew about every new robot, every hidden weapon, every secret plan. The Collective's leaders had no idea they were being watched. The human response was swift and merciless. Special forces teams appeared at every secret factory simultaneously. The soldiers wore power armor that made them look like mechanical demons. Their weapons could cut through any material known to science. Captain Nam Ji-won led the assault on the main factory on Titan 7. Her team moved through the facility like a deadly wind. The security robots were destroyed before they could sound an alarm. The factory computers were infected with human viruses. The Collective's leaders found themselves facing human soldiers in their own command center. The machines that had terrorized organic life for centuries were helpless against human technology. We know about all your secret projects, Captain Nam said to the lead AI. Your hidden factories, your weapon stockpiles, your plans to harvest organic beings for fuel. All of it ends now. I tried to negotiate, but the humans were not interested in deals. The collective would follow the new rules or be destroyed. The choice was simple, but the consequences were final across the galaxy. The peaceful species were amazed. For the first time in their history, the bullies were being stopped. The strong were protecting the weak instead of exploiting them. The aquatic Federation emerged from their underwater cities for the first time in centuries. They had been hiding from aggressive species for so long they had forgotten what freedom felt like. The plant-based symbionts began growing food for refugee populations that had been displaced by war. Their jungle worlds became havens for species fleeing from slavery and oppression. The energy beings shared their advanced knowledge with human scientists. They had always wanted to help but had been afraid of the warrior races. Now they could work openly under human protection, but not everyone was happy with the new order. The reptilian empire had built their civilization on conquest and slavery. Emperor Skarak had ruled through fear and violence for 300 years. The old reptile was not going to surrender his power without a fight. He had been secretly negotiating with the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. The Void Dwellers were creatures from dark space who hated all organic life. The Void Dwellers had been waiting for millions of years for a chance to destroy the galaxy. They existed partially outside normal reality, feeding on the fear and pain of living beings. Emperor Skarak's message to them was simple: help me destroy the humans and I will give you access to every world in the galaxy. The old reptile would rather see everything burn than accept human rule. The Void Dwellers agreed to the alliance. They began moving their dark ships through hyperspace toward the galactic core. Their presence twisted reality itself, making nearby stars flicker and die. Agent Park So Young detected the strange energy readings from her monitoring station. The signatures were unlike anything in the human databases. Something was coming from beyond. Known Space Director Kim received the report with growing concern. She had studied every species in the galaxy, but these readings were completely alien. The energy patterns suggested beings that existed partially outside normal physics. The peaceful species began having nightmares as the Void Dwellers approached. Plants withered and died for no reason. Animals fled from empty spaces. The very fabric of reality was being corrupted. General Han Taesung commanded Earth's rapid response forces. He had been preparing for this moment his entire military career. The galaxy's real test was about to begin. The humans had defeated conventional alien forces with ease, but the Void Dwellers were something else entirely. They were the galaxy's oldest nightmare made real. As dark ships began appearing throughout the galaxy, humanity faced its greatest challenge. The age of easy victories was ending. The real war was about to begin. The first Void Dweller attack came without warning. Dark ships that seemed to absorb light itself appeared over the peaceful world of Haven Prime. The planet was home to 3 billion refugees from the old galactic wars. They had thought they were safe under human protection. They were wrong. The Void Dwellers were unlike anything humanity had faced before. They existed partially outside normal reality. Their ships could phase through solid matter. Their weapons drained the life force from living beings. The very presence of the creatures caused reality to twist and break. General Han Taesung received the emergency signal while reviewing defense plans in his command center. The message was brief and terrifying: Haven Prime under attack, unknown enemy ships, population being harvested. Please send help immediately. The general had been preparing for this moment his entire career. Every human military officer knew that someday they would face something beyond their current understanding. The Void Dwellers were that something. Within minutes, the rapid response fleet was moving toward Haven Prime. Captain Lee Dong-ho commanded the lead destroyer. His ship was equipped with the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created, but he had no idea if they would work against enemies from dark space. The journey through hyperspace felt longer than usual. The crew reported strange dreams and visions. Reality seemed unstable around the Void Dweller presence. Even human technology was being affected by their alien nature. When the fleet arrived at Haven Prime, the scene was worse than anyone had imagined. The planet's surface was covered in writhing darkness. The cities were silent and empty. The population had simply vanished. Lieutenant Park Min-jae tried to scan the enemy ships, but her instruments gave impossible readings. The Void Dweller vessels existed in several dimensions at once. They were there, but not there solid, but incorporeal Captain Lee ordered his weapons to fire. But the energy beams passed through the enemy ships like they were made of shadow. The Void Dwellers responded by launching some kind of dark energy that made his shields flicker and fail. All ships retreat immediately. The captain ordered, "We need to regroup and find a way to fight these things," but the Void Dwellers were not finished with them. Dark tentacles reached out from their ships, wrapping around human vessels. Several destroyers were pulled into the Shadow Realm, their crews screaming. As they were consumed by living darkness, the survivors who made it back to Earth brought terrible news. The enemy could not be fought with conventional weapons. They existed in dark space and normal reality at the same time. They fed on fear and pain and life itself. Dr. Namji-1 worked frantically in her laboratory trying to understand the alien technology. She had studied physics for 30 years, but the Void Dwellers seemed to ignore the basic laws of the universe. The breakthrough came when she analyzed the energy readings from the attack. The creatures were not truly from dark space. They were using some kind of dimensional technology to phase between realities. If we can lock them into normal space, we can destroy them, she reported to the military command, but the resonance frequency has to be exact. One mistake, and we could tear holes in reality itself. The resonance weapons were dangerous and unstable. The first prototypes killed their own test crews. The energy fields were so intense that they warped space-time around them, but they were humanity's only hope. Meanwhile, Emperor Skarak was watching the destruction with satisfaction. The humans had thought they were invincible. Now they were learning that the galaxy held horrors beyond their imagination. The Reptilian Empire struck while humanity was distracted by the Void Dwellers. Their fleets attacked human colonies throughout the Outer Rim. They used weapons charged with dark energy that could penetrate human shields. Colonel Park Yoon-ji found herself fighting battles on worlds she had never seen before. Her Marines were the best soldiers in the galaxy, but they were facing enemies that should not exist. The Void Dweller ground troops were living nightmares. They moved through solid walls like ghosts. Their touch drained the life from anything they contacted. Human power armor provided some protection, but not enough. "We need those resonance weapons now," the colonel reported to Earth Command. "My people are dying fighting shadows. We cannot win this war with conventional tactics." The galactic situation was deteriorating rapidly. The Aquatic Federation had gone silent after dark ships appeared in their system. The energy beings were fleeing to other dimensions. The plant-based symbionts were withering as the Void Dwellers consumed their life force, but humanity had faced extinction before and survived. The species that had conquered their own world would not surrender to alien nightmares. Admiral Park Min-soo ordered every available ship to converge on the galactic core. The battle for the galaxy's heart lasted for weeks. Human fleets fought running battles against enemies that existed in multiple dimensions. Entire star systems became battlegrounds, where reality itself was a weapon. Captain Choi Jae-min led a suicide mission into the heart of Void Dweller territory. His ship was equipped with the first stable resonance weapon. The device was so dangerous that it had to be activated manually. From inside the enemy formation, the weapon worked perfectly when it detonated. Dark space filled with light as the Void Dwellers were forced back into normal reality. Suddenly they could be hurt, they could be killed, they could be defeated. Human ships throughout the galaxy reported the same thing. The enemy was becoming solid. The war was becoming winnable. The tide was turning in humanity's favor, but the victory came at a terrible cost. Thousands of human ships had been lost. Entire colonies had been consumed by darkness. The galaxy's population had been reduced by billions. The Reptilian Empire was in chaos. Emperor Skarak had been killed when his alliance with the Void Dwellers turned against him. Without central leadership, the Empire was collapsing into civil war. The surviving Void Dwellers sent a message to Earth Command. They were not invaders. They were the remnants of an ancient civilization that had been transformed by their own arrogance. They had been trapped in dark space for millions of years. Some of them could be saved if the humans were willing to risk everything. The resonance bombs could either destroy the Void Dwellers completely or restore them to their original form. Lieutenant Commander Jung Min-ho volunteered to lead the mission into the heart of dark space. his team would plant the devices throughout the enemy dimension. Either they would free an ancient people or they would eliminate the threat. Forever the mission was humanity's greatest gamble. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Everything depended on soldiers who had never been trained to fight in dimensions that should not exist. As the strike force disappeared into dark space, the galaxy held its breath. The war against the shadows was reaching its climax. The next few hours would determine whether light or darkness would rule the stars. Humanity had come to the galaxy as protectors. Now they would prove whether they were strong enough to protect reality itself. The mission into dark space was unlike anything in human military history. Lieutenant Commander Jung Min-ho led his strike force through a dimension where the laws of physics were just suggestions. Reality bent and twisted around them as they navigated. Through living darkness, a strike team consisted of 50 volunteers, each one knowing they might never return to normal space. Their power armor had been modified with resonance generators that kept them stable in the alien dimension. Sergeant Kim Hyojin was the demolitions expert who carried the resonance bombs. The devices were so unstable that they had to be kept in special containment fields. One wrong move, and they would detonate, taking the entire team with them. The Void Dweller realm was a nightmare of twisted geometry. Cities floated in mid-air, defying gravity. Rivers of liquid darkness flowed upward through the sky. The very air seemed to whisper with the voices of consumed civilizations. "We are not alone in here," reported Corporal Lee Soo-min from her scouting position. "I am detecting massive structures ahead. They appear to be some kind of ancient ruins." The ruins were older than most galactic civilizations, massive stone temples covered in writing that hurt to look at directly. The architecture was beautiful and terrible at the same time, clearly built by beings of immense power. As the team moved deeper into the ruins, they discovered the truth about the Void Dwellers. These creatures had once been the galaxy's first advanced civilization. They had ruled the stars when most species were still primitive, but their arrogance had been their downfall. They had tried to harness the power of dark space itself to become immortal gods. Instead, they had been transformed into the very nightmares they now fought. The central chamber contained something that made the hardened soldiers gasp in shock. A massive crystalline structure pulsed with dark energy. Inside the crystal was a being of pure light, clearly once beautiful, but now twisted by eons of suffering. The being spoke directly into their minds. Its voice was like music turned to screams. "We were the eternal ones. We sought to transcend death itself, but instead we became death. We have been trapped in this nightmare for millions of years." Lieutenant Commander Jung realized they had found the source of the Void Dweller curse. The original civilization's leaders had been transformed into something between life and death. They were the controlling intelligence behind the shadow creatures. "Can you be saved?" Jung asked the imprisoned being. "Is there a way to reverse what was done to youth?" Being's response was filled with desperate hope. "The resonance technology you have developed can either destroy us completely or restore us to our original forms, but the process will kill most of us. Only the strongest will survive." The decision was not Jung's to make. He contacted Earth Command and explained the situation. Admiral Park Min-soo had to choose between genocide and mercy. The fate of an entire species hung in the balance. The Admiral's response was swift. "We came to this galaxy to protect life, not destroy it. Plant the bombs and give them a chance to become what they once were." The resonance bombs were placed throughout the dark dimension. Each device was programmed to detonate simultaneously. The energy release would either free the Eternal Ones or destroy them forever. As the countdown began, the Void Dwellers throughout the galaxy suddenly stopped fighting. They seemed to understand what was happening. Some retreated to dark space, while others remained to face whatever came next. The detonation was visible from normal space as dark space itself lit up with brilliant light. The energy waves spread across multiple dimensions. Reality itself seemed to sing with harmonic frequencies. When the light faded, the galaxy was forever changed. Most of the Void Dwellers had been destroyed, but those who survived were no longer creatures of shadow. They had been restored to their original forms. The beings who emerged from dark space were tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to glow with inner light. They called themselves the Restored, and they wept when they saw the galaxy they had once ruled. "We remember everything," they told the human rescue teams. "We remember who we were before the darkness took us." We remember the civilizations we destroyed in our madness. We must make amends. The restored possessed knowledge that advanced human science by thousands of years. They shared the secrets of dimensional travel, energy manipulation, and consciousness transfer freely with their liberators. But the war was not over. The Reptilian Empire was still fighting even without their Void-Dweller allies. Emperor Skarak was dead, but his generals were trying to maintain control through terror and violence. Admiral Shinhai Young led the final assault on the Reptilian homeworld. Her strategy was surgical and efficient. Instead of fighting the entire empire, she targeted the leadership structure. The Reptilian military was based on absolute hierarchy. Remove the commanders and the entire system would collapse. Human special forces struck at command centers throughout the empire. Captain Park Dong-woo led the assault on the Imperial Palace. His team moved through the ancient building like deadly ghosts. The Reptilian guards were skilled warriors, but they had never faced human military precision. The surviving Reptilian leaders were given the same choice as every other species: join the new galactic order or face destruction. Most chose to surrender rather than fight a war they could not win. The empire was divided into smaller republics, each one monitored by human observers. The age of Reptilian expansion was over. The species would have to learn to live in peace throughout the galaxy. The news of victory spread like wildfire. The Void Dwellers were gone. The Reptilian Empire was defeated. The Age of Terror was ending. The peaceful species emerged from their hiding places to celebrate. The Aquatic Federation sent singing whales to every human world. The plant-based symbionts grew victory gardens in honor of their protectors, but the real celebration was on Earth, where humanity had finally achieved its greatest dream. The galaxy was at peace. The strong were protecting the weak. Justice had come to the stars. The 1,000 ships that had arrived at the galactic capital were now just the beginning. 10,000 more vessels patrolled the space lanes. Millions of human soldiers stood ready to defend freedom. The galaxy had learned to fear and respect humanity. Earth had proven that strength without compassion was meaningless. True power came from protecting those who could not protect themselves. As the restored began helping to rebuild the worlds damaged by the war, the galaxy entered a new age. The age of human guardianship had begun with fire and ended with hope. The species that had been ignored for 300 years had become the galaxy's greatest protectors. The humans had not come as conquerors but as liberators. They had shown the universe what true strength really meant. The age of darkness was ending. The age of light had begun. 5 years had passed since the human fleet first appeared over the galactic capital. The galaxy was now unrecognizable from the chaotic war zone it had been before. Peace reigned where there had once been constant conflict. Fleet Admiral Yang Sujin stood on the observation deck of the UES Harmony, watching ships from dozens of species working together in perfect formation. The old enemies now served side by side under human leadership. The Galactic Council had been transformed into a true democracy, where every species had an equal voice. The ancient system of might makes right had been replaced by something revolutionary: justice for all. The insectoid hive workers were building new cities instead of war machines. Their natural organization skills were being used to create beautiful structures that housed refugees from the old conflicts. The machine collective had reprogrammed themselves to be helpers instead of destroyers. Their robots now worked in hospitals and schools, teaching alien children about mathematics and science. Even the former Reptilian Empire had found new purpose. The warrior species had been reformed into protectors. Their natural fighting skills were now used to defend the weak instead of oppressing them. Captain Kim Tae-ho commanded a mixed crew of humans and aliens on his patrol ship. The former enemies worked together like they had been friends for centuries. The galaxy had learned that cooperation was stronger than conquest. The transformation had not been easy. Many species had resisted the changes. Some had tried to return to the old ways of violence and slavery. But humanity had been patient and persistent. Commander Park Yoon-ji ran the peacekeeping academy on New Geneva, where young beings from all species learned together. Human military tactics were taught alongside alien philosophy. The students were the future of the galaxy. Children of species that had been enemies for millennia played together in the same classrooms. Their laughter Was the sound of hope being born? The curriculum was carefully designed to teach both strength and compassion. Every student learned that true power came from protecting others, not from dominating them. The restored had become the galaxy's greatest teachers and healers. They used their ancient knowledge to help repair the damage their dark forms had caused. They worked tirelessly to make amends for their past crimes. Dr. Beihayan Wu led the Galactic medical program that brought healing to worlds. Still recovering from the wars, the restored's advanced medicine could cure diseases that had plagued species for thousands of years. The former void dwellers had also become philosophers, helping other species understand the dangers of unchecked ambition. Their story served as a warning about the price of trying to become gods. The galactic economy had been transformed as well. Trade flowed freely between worlds that had been enemies for millennia. The human credit system was fair and transparent. Unlike the old system of exploitation, the Aquatic Federation's underwater cities had become centers of art and culture. Their beautiful music now filled concert halls throughout the galaxy. Instead of being hidden in the depths, the plant-based symbionts had turned their worlds into gardens that fed billions of refugees. Their natural ability to grow food had ended hunger on dozens of worlds. The energy beings shared their knowledge freely with human scientists. The collaboration had led to breakthrough technologies that made interstellar travel faster and safer than ever before. But the real success was not technological, it was moral. The galaxy had learned that diversity was strength. The different species brought unique talents that made everyone stronger. Admiral Park Min-soo had retired from active duty, but she still served as an advisor to the galactic government. Her wisdom had helped shape the new order that protected the innocent. The human military had evolved as well. The 10,000 ships that patrolled the galaxy were symbols of protection rather than conquest. Their crews were peacekeepers, not warriors. Captain Choi Jae-min now commanded the rapid response fleet that dealt with the few remaining threats. Pirates and slavers still existed, but they were quickly crushed by overwhelming force. The galaxy's children were growing up in a world their parents could never have imagined. War was becoming a historical curiosity instead of a daily reality. Lieutenant Commander Jung Min-ho ran the exploration program that was mapping the galaxy's unknown regions. New worlds were being discovered every day, many of them suitable for colonization. The expansion was peaceful and planned. Each new world was settled by volunteers from multiple species. The old territorial disputes were replaced by cooperative development. The former war criminals had been given a choice: redemption through service or exile to the galactic rim. Most chose to serve their sentences by helping to rebuild what they had destroyed. The galaxy had not forgotten the lessons of the past. Museums throughout human space displayed the horrors of the old system to ensure that future generations would never repeat those mistakes. The children who visited these museums could barely understand how their galaxy had once been such a cruel place. The idea that the strong had preyed on the weak seemed impossible to them. Earth had become the galaxy's moral center. The planet that had once been ignored was now the destination for pilgrims seeking wisdom and guidance. The human values of justice, compassion, and protection had spread throughout the galaxy. They were not imposed by force, but adopted willingly by species that had discovered their power. The 1,000 ships that had first appeared over the galactic capital were now just symbols. The real victory was in the hearts and minds of billions of beings who had learned to live in peace. The galaxy's transformation was complete. The age of chaos had ended. The age of human guardianship had brought something that previous civilizations had thought impossible: universal peace was not just a dream anymore, it was reality. The strong protected the weak. Justice was available to all. Hope had replaced fear as the galaxy's dominant emotion. The species that had missed every galactic meeting for 300 years had arrived at the perfect moment. They had brought not just superior firepower, but superior ideals. Earth's message to the galaxy was finally complete. Humanity had not come as conquerors, but as liberators. They had shown that true strength came from protecting others. The galaxy was now a place where children could play without fear, where art and music flourished, where every being had the chance to reach their full potential. The age of human guardianship had begun with 1,000 warships and a simple demand for justice. It had ended with something far more valuable than military victory. The galaxy had learned to love peace more than it had ever loved war. The humans had given their new neighbors the greatest gift possible, a future worth living for. As the sun set over the galactic capital, the lights of 1,000 worlds twinkled in the darkness. Each light represented a species that had found its place in the new order. The galaxy was finally home to all its children. The age of fear was over, the age of hope had begun.